Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master, and honorable, because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper.
Amen. Continue. Okay, amen. Continue.
And the Syrians had gone out by companies, and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife.
Okay, that was good.
And she said unto her mistress, Would God my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy.
Liana? And one went in and told his Lord, saying, Thus and thus said the maid that is one of the land of Israel. Thank you. I'm interested in Liana.
Welcome.
Okay. No.
And I sent a letter unto the king of Israel, and he did parade and took him 2 talents of silver, and 6,000 pieces of gold, and 10 chains of raiment.
Thank you, Amaha.
Betty?
And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, Now when the letter is come to thee, behold, I have herewith sent Naaman my servant to thee. And go means to cover him of his leprosy.
Slower.
And it came to pass, when the king of Israel had read the letter, that he rent his clothes and said, Can I God, to kill and to make alive, that this man did send unto me to recover a man of his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me.
Thank you, Betty. Fuzzy?
And so when Elisha the man of God had heard that
Elijah.
and it was so when Elisha the man of God had heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, that he said to the king, saying, Wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel.
Go again.
Next.
And it was so Naaman came with horses with his chariot, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha.
Elijah. Thank you, Bati. This is how you, it's not Elisha, it's Elijah.
And it's not, it's Naaman. Naaman.
Okay, so Bennett. We can't hear you. Can you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and Elijah sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean.
Go next. Go. Continue.
What did you say? Oh, continue?
Yeah.
Oh, but Naaman was wroth and went away and said, Behold, I thought he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, and strike his hand over the place and recover the leper.
Thank you, Bennett. Beza.
Are not Abana and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage.
Remember that? Yeah.
And his servants came near and spake unto him, and he said, My father, if the prophet had bid thee do some great sin, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then, when he saith to thee, Wash and be clean?
Thank you, Beza. Anyone want to repeat themselves?
Or you can read,
Yeah.
if you have it. Anyone?
You can raise your hand. Okay. Okay. Aiden? Oh, okay. Let's go. Two.
So we're reading 2 each.
Yes.
Okay. Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean.
Okay. You can continue.
And he returned to the man of God, and he and all his company and came and stood before him. And he said, Behold, now I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. Now therefore I pray thee, take a blessing of thy servant.
Tamaskin?
But he said, As the Lord lived, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused.
Tamaskin, you can go again. Continue.
And Naaman said, Shall there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servants 2 moles burden of earth? For thy servants will henceforth offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice unto other gods, but unto the Lord.
Thank you, Tamaskin. Eliana?
You're welcome.
This thing is pardon thy servants, that when my master goes into the house of Rimmon, the worship is there, and he leans on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon. When I bow down myself in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardon thy servant is this thing.
You can continue.
And he said unto him, Go in peace. So he departed from him in a little way.
Thank you, Tamaskin and Eliana, for your participation.
Aiden? Aiden?
የእግዚአብሔርም ሰው ሉሌ ግያዝ ጌታዬ ሶርያዊን ይህን የእማንን ማረው ከመጣለትም ነገር ምንም አልተቀበለም። ሕያው እግዚአብሔርን በስተ ኃይለው እሮጣለሁ ከእርሱም አንዳች እወስዳለሁ አለ።
You can continue.
ግያዝም ንዕማንን ተከተለው። ንዕማንም ወደ እርሱ ሲሮጥ ባየው ጊዜ ሊገናኘው ከሰረገላው ወርዶ ሁሉ ደህና ነውን አለው።
Does anyone want to repeat? Raise your hand if you do. Betty?
Okay. And he said, All is well. My master hath sent me, saying, Behold, even now there come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver, 2 changes of garments. And Naaman said, Be content, take 2 talents. And he urged him, bound 2 pounds of silver in 2 bags, with 2 changes of garments, and laid them upon 2 of his servants, and they buried them before him. Thank you, Beza, for letting me.
Do you want me to read?
Yes.
Okay. And when he came to the tower, he took them from their hand and bestowed them in the house. And he let the men go, and they departed.
Continue.
Okay. But when he went in and stood before his master, and Elijah said unto him, Whence comest thou, Gehazi? And he said, Thy servant went no wife.
Thank you, Bennett.
No.
Bazi?
And he said unto him, Once not mine heart with thee, when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? Is it a time to receive money and receive garments, and oliveyards and vineyards, and sheep and oxen, and menservants and maidservants?
Continue.
The leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave unto thee, and unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence as a leper, as white as snow.
Okay, so now only we're going to watch the video. Right, like when the man starts talking, one asks you if you can hear it. It didn't start yet.
In the land of Syria there lived a mighty man of valor by the name of Naaman.
Can you guys hear? Okay, good. It's fine.
In the land of Syria there lived a mighty man of valor by the name of Naaman. He was a strong warrior that commanded the Syrian army. Naaman fought many battles and was a courageous man, but one thing made him vulnerable. He was a leper. Leprosy was a terrible and painful skin disease. The disease began slowly, but it would eventually turn him into a disfigured, ugly, and infected man. In those days, lepers were outcasts and lived in their own colonies. No person wanted to come in contact with a leper. In Naaman's house, there lived a little girl from Israel. The Syrians had taken her from Israel to be a household slave. One day she spoke with Naaman's wife and told her of a prophet who lived in Israel that could heal Naaman's leprosy. When Naaman heard this, he immediately set out to get permission from the king of Syria to embark on a long journey to the land of Israel. He wanted to find that prophet and ask for healing. In the meantime, the king of Syria wrote a letter in which he asked the king of Israel for permission to heal Naaman. When the king of Israel read the letter, he was confused and suspected foul play. When the prophet Elisha heard of the news, he corrected the king and asked that Naaman be sent to him. And so it happened. When Naaman arrived at Elisha's house, a servant came out to meet him. Naaman was angry, since he thought Elisha would welcome him in person. The servant then spoke to Naaman. Here is what Elisha says. Go to the Jordan River and wash off 7 times. Your leprosy will be healed. Naaman wasn't so sure about this trick. Besides, how could the Jordan River help him? Why come all the way to Israel when there are rivers in Syria? Naaman's servants rushed to his side and begged him to obey the word of the prophet. Naaman swallowed his pride and went to the Jordan River to do exactly as Elisha commanded. There in the Jordan River he washed 7 times, and after the 7th time, a miraculous wonder took place. It happened exactly as Elisha foretold. God's power came over Naaman and healed him. Because of his faith, he believed, and because he believed, he was healed. Naaman went to thank Elisha and declared that there was indeed no other God than the God of Israel. Naaman wanted to give gifts to Elisha, but he refused. So Elisha's servant ran after Naaman, lied about being told to receive the gifts so he could get them. When Elisha saw this, he cursed the servant and his descendants with leprosy. And immediately the servant went away, covered with sores.